There's a story I need to tell today, and it's about 11:30 at night, and we're here, and I have to talk this out. I have to process this. I shouldn't be here tonight. You're seeing this whenever you're seeing this, and I'm really talking to myself here. This is for me, so if you don't mind, sort of you can hear this out, but this won't be like most videos. This is more for me to remember, for my family to remember this moment and what these formative times are like. I shouldn't be here tonight. There was a lot going on today. Didn't think that I'd be able to be in my own house, in my own bed, with my family sleeping in their own beds tonight. And that reason is kind of summed up with this little teeny tiny wristband from the hospital. This wristband, I'm going to keep this wristband. This wristband is for our youngest daughter. My youngest daughter, Caroline, she celebrated her third birthday back at the end of January. So it was about, 3 weeks ago. She turned 3. And today we go to check, and we thought that she had a fever, she had an infection, she had been complaining. To be blunt, she has a UTI, a urinary tract infection, which is common in kids. It happens. She had been complaining the night before, and she had been awake. It had been bothering her. She didn't sleep well last night. I didn't sleep well last night. My wife didn't sleep well last night. And we took her to the doctor's office. My wife was actually working today. She works with an amazing team in the area here in the suburbs. And so she went in and she said, "Hey, I'll just get a quick check. We'll just make sure get what we need." And we go in there, and to do checks for that, you need to just take a urine sample. We've all had to probably pee in a cup at some point. This isn't abnormal. And my wife, actually, she's a nurse. She did the quick swab, and they do this little test, and they put it into a machine, and the color codes tell you the levels, and then that's able to actually print out on a machine to give you it looks like a receipt. It just gives you the what is in the urine, and it breaks that down in notable things. And at least from my side, I'm going to tell the brief story. So we get to this point, and I see her face looking at the readouts, and it's not good. She said, oh no, oh. And at first it was sort of like, oh man, this isn't good. She might have something else, right? Or she might have a really bad infection. Sometimes if you have a bladder infection or a kidney infection or something more serious, it might show levels like this. A little context, my wife is a nurse, and I actually began in nursing school. So I was heading toward the medical field before I switched. And so we both probably, we know enough to get ourselves in trouble and understanding what's actually going on. And so we are there, and her face kind of sinks, and then she says, "Hey, I'm going to show this to the other doctors and ask them real quick if we need to do a prick of the finger," because her blood sugar was very high as well. There's a lot of sugar in the urine, and there's only a couple things that can mean. And we go in there, and a couple of one of the nurse practitioner, one of my wife's friends, comes in there and says, "Hey, we're just going to do a quick stick that'll kind of give us an idea of what's going on and where her blood sugar is." And she showed signs of a UTI, by the way, which was confirmed, but there were other things there. So one of the nurses, one of the guys, he's great with our daughters, know him. He comes in there and he pricks her finger, and as soon as he pricked her finger, he swore. He cursed right there. You know, I didn't even get upset at the moment. I mean, typically it's not a very professional reaction. But for a nurse who knows, I mean, I understand there's a relationship there that we have with him, through friendship, you know, and to hear him swear, checking her blood sugar, and then showing it to the nurse practitioner, and her face dropping is a little discouraging, a little disheartening at the time. I saw his face. My daughter, Caroline, she's a beast. She took it like a champ. She didn't even complain about her finger being pricked. Her glucose was 241 at that moment, and her glucose levels in her urines were over 500. And for you who maybe have gone through something like this, for you who have family members like this, that is a sure sign that we've caught early onset diabetes type 1. And type 1 diabetes is the type that you don't want. It's the type that is terminal. Well, back up. It's not terminal. It's chronic. It's lifelong. It's a hard process. It's the diabetes where your pancreas can't handle, where you have to have an insulin pump in a lot of cases. There's lots. I don't even know. I don't know all the possibilities. I don't know. I have had friends who are type 1 diabetic. You know, typically we know people who have diabetes, it's type 2. It's really controlled by diet and life choice. But this is the type that's not a choice. This is genetic. And that was a hard moment because my wife looks at the people she's working with, and when the doctors that she works with start giving us hugs, typically it's encouraging. At the same time, it's disheartening because that means something serious is happening. And the whole team worked, and they're amazing. And they said, look, let's just do what we can. Let's process this. Let's check things. Let's talk through options. And so we went to the ER. We went to the hospital. And they said, if you go there, you can get tests done today because you need to know, and we need to take care of this now and see what needs to happen. And confirm that this is it. They can do further testing, more complex testing, more complex testing, and they can allow them to, you know, go further and get immediate results and be able to get labs back, and because they can do that in-house at a hospital where a doctor's office really can't do that. And we drive over there, and it's amazing. And then it hits me. Once we get in, we get checked in, we go through that process, we all walk back there to the room. A team sort of swarmed. We go into a room, and we have one nurse walk in. Immediately following that was our primary nurse. And then after that, there was a third nurse to come assist. I think they were preparing for a few tests because when type 1 diabetes is diagnosed in such a young child, they want to move on it quick. They want to know what's going on, and they want to start doing things because the earlier you catch it, the better. You give the pancreas a longer life, essentially, and you can help as much, but also it can be very serious for her health and in many other ways. Again, I don't fully understand it. I chose not to Google it. I chose just to be present with my family in that moment. And again, maybe if you've gone through this, or if you know people, you know more of what this is like. But I just remember it hit me again as they were preparing. Caroline, my 3-year-old, sitting there on the table. She's sitting on a hospital bed, getting a little gown. She called it her purple dress. And she got her purple dress on, and they were hooking up the EKG to get her vitals and check her and monitor her. They were taping up her finger to check her pulse. They were doing all these things, and this amazing team was talking to her and interacting with her, encouraging her, making her laugh. And that is when it really hit how powerless I was in that situation. And as a father, you hope to never have those situations happen. And when they do, you hope that there's people or that there's a God around that can do something, because you can't. There's no way you can help in some of those situations. There's nothing that I could do in that moment to change what was happening or the inevitability of the situation. And there were people, and there was a God, and there is a God, and for all my atheist friends out there, you'll have to excuse my faith and my bias. It hit me really hard in that moment, but then moments followed that kept confusing me, kept challenging me, kept challenging my faith, kept challenging my mindset. So one of the first things they did after getting all those things hooked up is they pricked her finger. And if I'm being honest, it may have happened, I may have switched the order of that, but I just remember the whole team being there, and they pricked her finger again to check her blood levels, to check the glucose. And the first read, they pricked it, just wanted to confirm. This has only been about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And since the first reading in the doctor's office, she wasn't allowed to eat, so it was a fasting prick. And the read came back wrong. The read was 84. And I remember the first one was 241. And this, no person should ever have more than 200 in a read like that. From what they told me in that moment, it should never go above that. And typically, most averages are less than 100. And she was at 84. And so I just remember seeing the face on that nurse, our primary nurse in the room. Her face was, as soon as she pricked it and looked, she looked back and looked up at the doctor with a confused look on her face. And she said 84. And he said, let's just go ahead and take it again. Very calm, little confused, I could tell, because again, there's 4 people in the room, and not including our family. And so they did it again. They wiped a different finger, went to a different hand, wiped that finger, read, and it was 94. So at this point, everyone is confused. Okay, either they've gotten a different child from this doctor's office that claimed that they had a family coming with a child with, urine samples and 2 completely separate tests that are telling them that it looks like this child has type 1 diabetes and she's 3 years old, or we're wrong, like something's happening. And so immediately they said, look, we need to hook her up. We need to run an IV. We need to double check, but we're going to run some blood tests. We're going to see. We need another urine sample here in the ER. And they did. And they went through all of that. And long story short is, I'm here at home and it's the same day. This happened this afternoon. And I'm processing this because from all practical accounts, after being all afternoon in the hospital with my daughter, she does not have type 1 diabetes. And my emotions are still all over the place because my daughter had type 1 diabetes, and tonight she doesn't. So today, right now, as we've processed this whole situation and experience, I can only think that there's 2 possibilities. That either, one, all of the technology and all of the readers and all of the samples and things that were taken somehow were all tainted. Separate samples, separate tests done by separate people, at different times throughout the morning when we first got those tests made, all of those concluded the same thing, and they all had to be wrong. Had to be wrong. Because you can't just not have it. Like, even, it doesn't matter if she ate a jar of honey, her blood sugar would not do that. And so either all of that was wrong or a miracle happened in those 2 hours. And as the people were praying for her, as she took a power nap in the car on the way over, and didn't even beg for lunch or a snack, that sometime between the first test and the second tests, our daughter was healed. Our daughter, something changed, because honestly, the doctors at the hospital, most situations like that, would assume that we were lying, would assume that the tests were false, would assume, because you had two professional great teams looking at these and ending up with completely different results within a 2-hour period. And we don't know. And my heart goes out to the families that don't get to go home on a day like this. We're preparing ourselves to be in the hospital for 2 to 3 days at this point. We're preparing to think through the situation of, okay, who do we have to call? What do we have to change? We're in this mode. You know, I've seen these reactions of people, and I'm processing all of that, and here I am being told that we can go home and that the test came back fine, that her urine didn't reveal anything surprising, that she had a UTI, but there was nothing else wrong, that they've never seen that happen, that we're told by everyone, the team back at my wife's work, they're all in shock, more shocked than maybe we were. We were just relieved, and we had been praying, and we had a miracle on our hands, even by their, even by their terms, that there was some confusion. And so, but I think about all the families that don't get to go home, the families that went to the ER today, and they're given terrible news that their child has cancer, that their child has type 1 diabetes, that their child has organ failure, that their child has some sort of chronic illness that they're going to have to deal with, and that I'm sitting here making a freaking video at 11:30 p.m. after crying for a little while and processing what I'm feeling. The memories that stick out to me are the reactions, are the strength. I have 3 amazing women, 3 girls in my life, my wife and my 2 daughters. They were amazing. My wife is so strong. I joke with her that if it comes to, we went to Olive Garden tonight because we couldn't handle even thinking about making dinner, so we took one of the gift cards that we had, we hightailed it over to eat dinner. And I told her, I was like, you can't handle a breadstick. You're not strong enough to resist a breadstick, but you're strong enough to do this. You're strong enough to be an amazing woman, an example for your daughters. I don't get you. I don't get you. So tonight I'm grateful. I've got a spirit of gratitude. What are my feelings? I want to think through my feelings. I want to feel my feelings of gratitude, not taking things for granted. I don't take my daughters for granted. I really want to remember this feeling of that being powerless as a man, being powerless as a person, as a human being, is a powerful lesson for us in humility. So just remember that, and I want to remember that and be challenged by that.